Hey, Bat family. It's not my Bat lunch, my Bat after work. Today I have read Batman Eternal number 10. We're on 10 issues already. It's exciting. And Batgirl number 32. So I'm going to talk about both. As a warning, I do spoil things on these Bat videos as opposed to my regular comic book thoughts where I just discuss things more generally and don't spoil them. So that's just the way it goes here because that's kind of the fun, particularly of discussing Batman Eternal as it progresses. So yeah, I'll start with Batman Eternal. For me, it was another fun issue. It kept the train moving forward. It wasn't a terrible, like confusing digression with, that was just going to leave us hanging, and who knows when they're going to get back to that storyline. It felt like the main storyline. Catwoman, Batman, Falcone, a little bit of Lieutenant Bard, I think. A little bit of Vicky Vale, a little bit of spoiler Stephanie Brown. So that was all really good. I was glad to have all those pieces there. I was glad to have them moving forward. We got a little bit of daughter Pennyworth, Julia Pennyworth. So now we kind of know she's some kind of British secret agent of some sort, I believe. And she doesn't seem to have a good relationship with her dad. But maybe there I would have wanted a little more. She, excuse me, I'm just fiddling with my computer now so it won't decide to go to sleep on me. I would have liked more about her and her dad, a little more reaction, a little more detail. It was all held back a little bit. There were things you could pick at, definitely stuff you can pick at this issue, and it continues the feeling that this is very broad stroke, and sometimes they kind of take the easy way out on things. They've got all these moving pieces, so I'm just happy when they keep moving them forward. My expectations are, in a sense, lowered, or I'm enjoying it from a different vantage point. And the artist was a bit of a letdown, although I think, at the first few pages, I really disliked this artist, but then it started to seem better to me. I think he was a decent enough storyteller. His name is Riccardo Bercielli. I don't know. Some really hard to pronounce Italian name, probably. I think the colors really helped hold together this issue. And I liked the way there was a good bit of Carmine Falcone in this, and I liked the way Riccardo, because I can't say his last name, drew Falcone. However, like I've complained in the past that I couldn't recognize Lieutenant Bard from artist to artist. Here, I can't even recognize Bruce Wayne. Except for the fact that he's standing next to Alfred, I would have no idea that is Bruce Wayne. And when not only is he kind of this scrawny guy, and even like the position he's posed in there just doesn't look like someone of Bruce Wayne's stature, if you get what I mean. And then when we get closer looks at his face, it does make you want them to a little bit go back to the bad old days for artists when they had to do things a certain house style. I don't want an entire house style, but I want them to be kind of some rules. Like Bruce Wayne's face always has a certain shape or something. Because this is a very kind of elongated Bruce Wayne's face, nose. He's just an entirely different type of person. So I guess is Jason Todd here. But I'm less familiar with Jason. I mean, it's so obvious with Bruce Wayne. We get, of course, get another version of Bard, and Vicky Vale. It's unfortunately in comics they I don't think Vicky Vale's hair is quite the same, uh, but they don't usually give women such distinctive faces, so it's a little bit less jarring as we go from artist to artist because they all give women less distinctive faces. Although, uh, while I'm at it, there was a excuse me, I'm looking for pictures of Stephanie Brown. Yeah, no, is that all we've got of her? I thought we had more than one page of Stephanie Brown, but Stephanie Brown doesn't look so much like a teenager even. I just feel like I can forgive a lot of stuff, but can't they, make some consistency there? Um, I like the way this artist does Pig. I like the artist. The artist uses very heavy black ink, but I think he generally uses that well. Although there's a few a few panels where he just makes a blob of ink that doesn't make sense. But he's not good at the big superheroic stuff. That to me, that splash page of Batman coming through the window above is really poor. I mean, I think an editor should have asked him to redraw that personally. But, and as is the front splash page with almost no detail in it. I guess it's kind of an arresting image. And maybe it's a stylistic thing to put people into these weird positions, but she's in kind of a weird position that doesn't really track. So that's part of the fun of these is every week we appreciate and pick away at these things. Another thing that on rethinking it, because I read it the first time and I enjoyed it quite a bit, but then I watched Joshua Hayes' video and he particularly disliked this issue. And then I kind of skimmed over it again with a more critical eye. I just couldn't help it after listening to his video. This opening flashback to Catwoman and Falcone is pretty unsatisfying. She apparently just didn't like him, and she was stealing from him because she knew he was now a loser and that the Penguin was taking over. And so it just makes Catwoman seem just mean for no reason and makes Falcone seem really weak, but there's no deep connection to them. And since I'd heard that, in some continuity he might be her father, I just expected some kind of deeper connection to them, between them. And maybe there is, and it just isn't properly presented here. I did like the Vicky Vale and Lieutenant Baird part. I liked the way they had Baird once again just subtly giving Batman a little bit of help by counting to 2 before he goes in with guns a-blazing. The general flow of the story, with Falcone and Batwoman, Falcone captures Batwoman, Pig comes along and captures Falcone, and he's going to menacingly threatening to turn Falcone into a human Falcon, and then Batman rescuing Falcone, and all of these cards of the plot falling in place. I really like that. And I guess I kind of emphasize that because I'm talking to Joshua Hayes to an extent, and I don't know how other people are feeling about this yet. So yeah. Other things that I wish there was more detail on. I want to know a little bit more about this father, the clue master, who, dislikes his daughter so much. Or, what's going on there? I want a little more of what's going on there. Both the mother and the father, who are divorced, are both happy to knock off that little bitch as they think of their daughter. That's kind of entertaining, but how do we get from here, the normal parent who loves their child, to there? Like, I want something more there. Just as I want a little more about Falcone and Catwoman, and I want a little more um, about Alfred and Julia. Most importantly, I want more about Alfred and Julia at this point. I'm really curious about their relationship. So, yeah. So there's the pluses and the minuses. And then another another thing is, just like Batman got his information kind of in a easy, straightforward way in the last issue, and he didn't get very much information. At the very end of this issue, Catwoman just tells him some information that she happened to get off stage with Falcone, as far as I can remember, which changes everything. But that's part of kind of the rushed feeling of this, that they always choose kind of the easy way out plot-wise. Like, there's not some extra clever layer of how they I should there's Alfred, as drawn by Sean Riaz in the background behind me. Since was talking about Alfred, I meant to have him in the shot. So yeah, of course, a completely different Alfred. One, no doubt, who never had sex. I digress terribly. So just to have Catwoman tell him this, and not even have any drama of her on stage getting the information, so that it's just information that's just passed on to us because we need to, is kind of a symptom of how this story's so big and it's being put together by so many people that they just need to put out their cards of their little points on cards, I'm imagining, and then move on to the next set of cards they have to lay down. And I'm just guessing here, from the credits, it's like the entire story of every issue. The story is given to be by Scott Snyder and James Tynion, with consulting writers, and then someone writing the script. So it's kind of like a person is given the script, and James Tynion and Scott Snyder have told them, you have to do A, B, and C in this issue. You figure it out, I guess. And so the people who are doing the figuring out of the smaller details, maybe, A, they might feel rushed. B, they might not have a huge investment in this series. So they do things the easy way. That's my analysis of it at the moment. It's not important because I'm still enjoying it, right? It's what is keeping this. This is not going to go down in my history books of Batman as a brilliant thing, just as a fun thing. And I think that might be why. Now, it might be that, what, like the trees versus the forest, maybe each individual tree is just a nice tree, but maybe when we see the whole forest, there's still hope that we'll say, wow, that was a brilliant forest when you see all those trees together at the end of the series. I'm going like this. So that's possible. And I'm kind of eager to find out. As an individual issue, Batgirl was by far superior. This was a pretty damn brilliant issue, I thought. This was Gail Simone, as I love to think of Gail Simone being. There was just a real nasty edge with our sort of vigilante villain. She's so villainous that it's hard to think that she's fighting anything on the side of good. She's just more like a crime boss taking over. But Nightfall, whose name is, I always forget. Well, I shouldn't spend a bunch of time looking. I know that she calls this henchwoman of hers Sally. And I don't know if she has another name. So the funny thing is, I have read Batgirl on and off during this Gail Simone run, but maybe just the last 8 issues straight through. Could it be 8 or 10 or less? But I don't have a full knowledge of Nightfall and her hench people. So I don't know if how much of a role this Sally person, this very muscular, dusky-skinned woman, has played before. But she certainly plays a big role in this issue. It's a really creepy issue. It's disturbing, and then it can pop us right back into the other part of Barbara's life. There she is, horrified when she opens the door. But and there's all this horror going on, to my mind, horrific stuff in the story. But what she's horrified there, we find out, is that she's playing or she sees her roommate playing strip Scrabble with her date. At least that's how I interpreted that scene. And we get a nice little moment between her and her roommate, and then it's back to, this really creepy stuff. So we also have her boyfriend, Ricky, being discouraged very violently from doing his lawsuit against Commissioner Gordon. There are tie-ins to Batman Eternal, although I gather from Batman Eternal that Batgirl is currently in South America, so they're ignoring that, and this is whenever Batgirl was in Gotham. And then this other character shows up, which is her whole old college roommate, who is now like some kind of uber secret U.S. security agency operative. And that was done really cool. I don't know if this character is part of continuity or has just been put in there now. And I had a moment because she is also kind of a similar complexion to that woman Sally, and also kind of tall and muscular looking. I thought for a second, wait a minute, is this Sally? But it's clearly, by the end, it was not Sally. So there is going around in comics a problem where sometimes characters look too much like each other. So there's all kinds of great elements, and I probably didn't do a good job of describing them all. But this is really for those of you who've already read it, right? All these great elements in this issue of Batgirl being juggled and coming to bear and they're all a little bit scary, a little bit menacing, threatening, which goes well with this cover, even though this cover is more symbolic than anything else. I'd love a coffee table book just with all the Batgirl painted covers at this point. And I like and really like Batgirl bringing in some of her allies, Black Canary, and then this other character, Huntress, who is, I believe, Bruce Wayne's daughter from Earth 2, brought into the picture. So that's going to be really interesting, unless this is a different version of Huntress. But I assume this is the Huntress from World's Finest, who is from Earth 2 and everything. The art was great. The coloring was great. This is just a really good issue. This would be a good time to jump on Batgirl, although I've just spoiled it, so I've probably driven away people who would want to jump on it. I guess I'll try to remember to say that in my more general reviews or general thoughts. Yeah. Batman Eternal is fun in a big picture way. We're continuing to have fun with it, and it's part of that weekly fun. Batgirl is different because it's not weekly. It's actually a more dense story, a more tense story. It feels more like stuff is at stake. I feel it more in my gut or in my heart when I read Batgirl. So Gail Simone's just doing an excellent job. I'm trying to think if there's anything else I wanted to say about it. Other than my slight confusion between the two characters, I think I have nothing to complain about. Yeah, I do kind of wish I knew more about Nightfall, or it makes me want to go find issues of Batgirl I haven't read and maybe read them with the issues of Batgirl I have read and put it all together. Or have they not done as good of a job of telling us about Nightfall as they should? But I think it's probably the first case. Anyway, more bat. I don't want to say bat chat because that name is well taken by our friend John DaCosta, who I think is going to bring Bat Chat back in some form, and does a great job talking about Batman, as can be seen in his Hush video. So yeah, if you haven't watched Joshua Hayes talking about this issue of Batman Eternal, definitely check that out. I'll put a link to that below. And I'm hoping Joshua will talk about Batgirl also. Talk to y'all later. Bye-bye.